Oh, God, you are going to get me in trouble.
So this is ranking tier list of rugby competitions, rugby leagues, rugby cups. So
Okay.
I've only picked 10 to be going on with. If anybody's wondering where's Currie Cup Division 2, where's Super Rugby South America, it's I've tried to tailor it to our wonderful guests today, so that we'll get someone else on in the future and we'll do some of the other broader ones, maybe a bit further afield. But so I've got 10 leagues to be talking about, and I'm going to split them into 5 categories. The categories are this. So the top is best league. Now, I should tell you, Dave, that we are a very heavy URC propaganda podcast. So there is a right answer. There's a good time, no alcohol required, which some people may recognize from a well-known film review YouTube channel. Third category is not what it was. So maybe that's probably the meanest one. Then there's finding its feet, so maybe a newer tournament that's still on the up. And then there's hipsters only. So only if you are a hardcore, you are too cool to watch the big stars. You have to watch something that no one's ever heard of on a Wednesday or Thursday night. This is the league for you. You don't have to have one in every.
Can I just say, right? You've put hipsters only at the bottom there. Bearing in mind, I live in East London, and you're wearing a flat cap. Like, what are you playing at here?
No, it's saying hipsters only is something that I would watch. If you'd like to classify hipsters only as something that only Hugh could enjoy, that's completely fair.
Let's go through these and see how much trouble and fun we can.
There's no rule to say that one has to be in each category, so everything can go in best league if we absolutely think we can convince ourselves of it. So first one, your specialist subject, your favorite one, BUC Super Rugby, will combine men's and women's. This applies to both.
Oh, can you slide that?
I take it.
Oh, cool! We're doing this live. Yeah, nice. You can slide that up into best league, and let me tell you why. BUC Super Rugby is the hinterland, the conduit, the silver lining between the glory days of amateur rugby and professional rugby that we love. It's probably the last opportunity that any player has to play for the club or the team that they have chosen to be a part of. The talent pathway is absolutely incredible. I think come the British and Irish Lions tour, we'll probably have our first BSR Lion in this in this coming tour. In terms of the Six Nations, the only team in the men's who haven't capped a BUC Super Rugby player are Ireland, but obviously they've got a lot going on over there. But France have, Italy have, Scotland have, Wales have, and England have. I think BUC Super Rugby is the best league. If I wasn't wearing this microphone, I'd drop it.
Oh, there you go then. So that's gone straight in there. Where shall we go next? Let's go for the one that we discussed earlier, Japanese League One. Where are you thinking?
Finding its feet, but only because I think it's an incredible platform, and I actually think in terms of a league, in terms of a format, as I explained earlier, it's found its feet, but now it is time that the global audience joined. So as I said, TVNZ are on board, ESPN Africa are on board because of the All Blacks and the Springboks that are playing. At the moment, there's not particularly strong there's no professional women's division in Japan, but I think as soon as the rest of the world catches up, then Japan Rugby League One, maybe hipsters only at the moment. But either way,
it's on at 5:30 in the morning, so that is quite hipstery.
Yeah, and hipsters can come straight in from the shared rave and tune in, can't they? All right, let's go hipsters only, but that is meant in the most complimentary of terms.
Yes. There's no losers here. Right. Next. Where should I go? Super Rugby. Right. So this is an interesting one. So it depends whether you want to say Super Rugby Pacific and sort of the post-lockdown Super Rugby is a new thing, or are we comparing it to Super 12?
Yeah, we are. So you can keep it in. You can keep it in not what it was, please.
I watched Moana Pacifica versus Reds this morning. It was not a good game. I will be honest.
I don't want to be disrespectful, but I also think this is a this is a bad season for it as well, isn't it? Because we are entering into the next World Cup cycle. So a lot of the top Southern Hemisphere players will be exploring opportunities to play elsewhere. South African teams are involved in the URC now. Australian rugby is in a rebuild. They haven't had particularly positive press around the disciplinary decisions involving a few teams in the last couple of weeks, which I think is a very light way of putting it. That is not to say that there is an astonishing depth of talent in those teams and in those countries, but I think it is probably fair to say that Super Rugby is not what it was.
All of our South African listeners will be delighting at that because they love to think that the Kiwis can't cope without them, and I'm sure they won't.
Shout out to the Saffers, good guys.
Yeah. Right, let's go Championship Rugby next. So you were at Bedford before. I have to say that I'm backing Cov this year, and I know they're very close to each other in the league because I went to Cov Uni. Where I lived in first year was literally 3 minutes walk from the Butts. So I'm backing Cov this year. Ealing, I've lost something like 3 of the last 6-7 games. Ealing, so it's not the walkover that it normally was. I think one of those is Premiership Cup, to be honest.
But, one was against Leicester Tigers, but Ealing Trailfinders, they always provide a team with the biggest moment of the season. Last year it was Caldy. This year it's London Scottish. So
I saw that.
So they've got a hell of a thing going over at Ealing, but every now and then. Great league, good time, no alcohol required. It's not been without strife, of course. Jersey going bankrupt absolutely sucks, but it's a great league. It's full of talent. It's full of incredibly dedicated people. It's full of great stories. I think you'd really, really enjoy it. And the players that play in it thoroughly enjoy it. So good time, no alcohol required.
Fantastic. Right, next, let's go for a big gun, top 14. Well, so if you're talking glamour, for me, nothing beats the top 14 for glamour.
No, you are absolutely right. And I think there are some Premiership players who are going to the top 14 and Pro D2 next season. Some of them haven't been announced yet, and it's like, yeah, of course you're going there. And nobody does a home game quite like Racing, do they?
No, they like to stand out, definitely.
You can put that in good time, no alcohol required, because we have already decided what
we can have multiple best leagues. We can have multiple best leagues.
Well, we could have multiple best leagues, but in this instance, we won't. Yeah, I mean, top 14 is just awesome, isn't it? And I will be very, like, come the end of this weekend, it'll be very interesting to see what the ceiling for some of the teams who are playing against top 14 teams is.
Can't wait. Let's go now. Well, speaking of this weekend, let's talk about the Champions Cup. So the Champions Cup got a lot of bad press this year and the last couple of years because of the constant changes of format, and some people don't like the South African teams being included. We're not amongst that on this podcast, but some people don't like it. But it seems as soon as we actually, the whistles went and the games started being played, a lot of that negativity fell away. So what's your kind of view on it? Well, bearing in mind that you are a commentator on it, so you are, of course, have a vested interest.
Yeah, and look, that is certainly a petard that I can be hoisted by. But I've been at how many Champions Cup games this year? So as a commentator,
you did 2 Cardiff games, didn't you?
I did I did 3 Cardiff games, but 2 at the Arms Park, and the atmospheres were absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing for Bath and Harlequins. Both sets of away supporters travelled in numbers. The home supporters really got behind the team. And look, Cardiff's struggles on and off the pitch in terms of the finances and being able to put and keep a squad together have been very, very public. But the crowd and the supporters have really got behind them, and they were amazing events. I've been to the Stoop this year for the Toulouse game, which was not a result that Harlequins would have been particularly pleased with. But the Glasgow Warriors game, I was there for that one on Friday as well, and it was absolutely awesome. So yeah, you can have a moan, get it off your chest. But whistle to whistle, we have had some outstanding games of rugby, some truly brilliant games of rugby, and particularly those initial weekends, those pool phase weekends where you can plant yourself on your sofa, in the pub, I don't know, at a ground, wherever you want, and watch 3 or 4 games of top draw rugby back to back. Doesn't get much better than that. So let's give it a good time, no alcohol required, please.
Let's go for it. Let's go for it. Right, now let's go straight back down to the Welsh Premiership. So like you, I've been really getting into the Thursday night coverage. If you need your rugby fix, if you're an absolute rugby addict, there's something there for free for people to watch on YouTube if they want. And yeah, there's been a bit of drama and narrative to it as well now, with all of the Neath-ness that's been going on online.
Have you been approached to do a Neath video?
I haven't. I'm not on Cameo though, so maybe
of
that's
course.
So what are we saying for the Welsh Prem then? Where's this going?
Well,
let me just, sorry to interrupt you.
No, please.
But the fact that it's changed, we're going to the EDC now, I think is maybe a suggestion that we should put it in not what it was, because it is becoming something else as of next year. Discuss.
Well, look, Ebbw Vale versus Pontypool on Thursday, is going to be absolutely massive. So I don't know what you're talking about. Well, no, I suppose next season we can put it in not what it was. But I know it's not, but I do feel as though not what it was is a bit of it is the downer here. Let's go hipsters only, in the hope that some of your listeners decide that they want to have a watch of it. The gap between URC and Indigo Premiership is bigger than the gap between Gallagher Premiership and the RFU Championship. And, and hopefully with the changes, whatever they settle on, if they can close that gap so players are able to make the step up from Indigo Premiership into one of the regional teams, because they're playing a slightly more competitive is the wrong word, slightly higher standard of rugby every week, I think that would be a lot more helpful for the Welsh game.
I agree. Right, let's talk about URC then. So look, as I said, it's a foregone conclusion. We're a biased podcast. But what's your favourite thing about the URC? What's the thing that you think, it's got a lot of naysayers, particularly in Wales, but what's the one thing you would say to someone, look, it's brilliant for this?
Look, and again, I've got a vested interest here because I cover URC. One of the things I love about the URC is the fact that there are so many brilliant teams from so many culturally different rugby parts of the world who go toe-to-toe every week. One of the things that frustrates me about the URC is the fact that every now and then you can predict a result, and that's because of player welfare, and you can't just play every player every week until they can barely stand. So sometimes, particularly with the regions, when the WRU were controlling minutes, then a team would have to go away to Leinster or Bulls, and you'd think, oh no, this is going to be a tough one. And yeah, there are learnings from it, and players will improve as a result of being subjected to rugby at that level. But unfortunately, it wasn't a contest. When it is a contest, my God, what a league! What a brilliant league! Phenomenal. And some of the best players who play the game play in that league, and it's as simple as that. I think it's really exciting to see. And look, your South African supporters are gonna love this. It's really exciting to see South African teams doing so well. It's really exciting to see South African players with an opportunity to play in South Africa, because I do think that the Gallagher Premiership and some of the Welsh regions and even the top 14, if you took the South African players out of those leagues, then my goodness me, where would you be? Their talent pool is so deep. So the fact that there are opportunities for Welsh and Scottish and Irish and Italian teams to be competitive with South African teams in the same division. Like, what can you possibly be upset about for that?
I couldn't agree more. Let's do the PWR next, the Pro League, or the Premiership Women's Rugby League.
Good time, no alcohol required. It's not what it was because it's improving. The Premier 15s was absolutely awesome, but Premiership Women's Rugby, a rebrand, it puts more power in the hands of the clubs. It puts more power in the hands of an independently led organization. It's got a broadcast deal. If you watch it, it's the first time that women's club rugby has looked like it belongs on television. Not in terms of what's happening between the white lines, because that quality has been there for absolutely years. But right now, if you tune in on a Saturday or a Sunday and you watch the game that is offered up by TNT, it looks and sounds amazing. They've got great people fronting it. They've got, Sarah Elgin and Laura Jane Jones, who are recognizable, dedicated, talented sort of lead females. You've got Claire Thomas and Nick Heath, who are leading a lot of the commentaries, and Johnny Hammond has been involved as well. People who've been sunk deep in the women's game for years. The Red Roses are arguably the best team on the planet, and we get to watch them every week. But we're also able to bring in talent from the best of the Welsh players, the best of the Irish. We've got some of the best of the South Africans. We did have some of the best Australians as well, but they've headed back to strengthen the club game there. I think it is unquestionably the best domestic women's division on the planet. Unfortunately, BUC Super Rugby in the Women's National League exists, so it's not in the best league category, but it is a good time and no alcohol required.
Yeah, well, none of the other leagues on this list have Cecilia Tuapoloto play in it. So
correct.
I'm just saying.
She's awesome, by the way. What a human being. And a massive shout out to Dan Murphy and all the coaches at Gloucester Hartpury as well, because when I first started watching Cecilia, I was like, oh my goodness me, who is this? And she was a ball carrying, Saturday ruining second rower back then. But they've worked with her and managed to turn her into a world-class front row. So huge credit to her for putting that work in, and huge shout out to those guys for helping her to do it as well. What a player, what a human.
Absolutely. And then last one, Premiership Rugby. So a lot of people would say that purely by the three clubs going bust, it's not what it was. Although I would say that actually concentrating the talent pool a bit has probably helped some of the standard, maybe. I don't know. What's your thought on it?
Bath a second, Saracens a third, Quins a fourth, Bristol a fifth, Exeter a sixth, Leicester a seventh, and Sale Sharks a eighth. How many teams is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 teams. Good maths. All 7 of those teams have won 8 and lost 6 this season.
Yep.
What a league. What a league. We're going. So there are 4 regular season games remaining, and realistically, 8 of the 10 teams can still make the playoffs, and the team who are currently top could finish outside the top 4. And the team who are 6th, I mean, mathematically, Sale Sharks could still finish top, but it would take a lot to go on. I think in terms, I don't think there is a more competitive league in rugby. Is there? If there is, tell me. I'll watch it every week.
I think from top to bottom, well, not quite bottom, but top to most of the way down, I don't think there's as much of a anyone can beat anyone league. No.
Yeah. And I'm just... So even 9th place. So Gloucester, they've only got 4 victories this season, but outside of Premiership Rugby, in the Prem Cup and in the Challenge Cup, they've looked practically invincible. I mean, they're playing the Ospreys tonight. Are you in the shed?
I don't know where I am. Someone else has got my ticket.
Okay. Either way, it's a great place to watch rugby. I mean, Gloucester could quite conceivably win a trophy this year. Look. I'm a fan of promotion and relegation. Call me British. I think it's great, and maybe and maybe one day the Premiership goes back to that. But for the time being, what an immensely competitive league. Stick it in good time, no alcohol required.
Excellent.
Again, it is unlucky that BUC Super Rugby and the URC, by proxy, I hasten to add, and looking at all these great leagues that we've had a chat about, there are a lot of haters, but I think it's important to realise that every player who runs out in those leagues is really bloody trying, and the vast majority of the people who are sat in the boardrooms and working in the club shops and pulling the pints behind the bar and making sure that the changing rooms are clean and that there's enough bandages in the medical supplies are really trying as well. So it's easy to be down on rugby, but I'm certainly not.
Well, fantastic. So there, for all our YouTube viewers, you can see the standings in front of you, but I'll just read them out for our audio listeners. In Best League, we got BUCS and URC. Good time, no alcohol required. It's Championship, Top 14, Champions Cup, PWR, Premiership Rugby. Not what it was. The only one in there is Super Rugby. Nobody in Finding Its Feet. And then Hipsters Only is Japan League One and Welsh Premiership.